resistance is futile.
Boldly going where no show has gone before. This is the Week in Geek with David D. Squared, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. Broadcasting from the Gregory Ricks and Associates Wealth Management Studios, here's D. Squared.
Greetings, people of Earth. This is the Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I'm your host, D Squared. All right, let me lay out the show for you real quick. We're going to kick it all off with top nerd news, followed by my boy Skungy with his pick of the week. And then tonight, I've got a guest, Dean Rueter. He is the author of The Hidden Nazi, The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil. Friday, the reason I have him on is quick explanation. VE Day, Victory in Europe, was on Friday, May 8th. And look, I'm a history nerd. Y'all should know this by now. So we're going to talk a little bit about some World War II history with Dean Rueter, about 7:30 or so. And then we'll wrap it all up with This Week in Geek History. But let me bring on my boy, Skungy. Skungy, what's kicking, chicken?
What is going on? Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there.
This is why I needed you, pal. I completely forgot about that. It is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to everyone out there. So, all right, Skungy, you know what? I'm tired of playing around. Let's get right into it.
Awesome.
And now, your top nerd news stories from around the world, brought to you by the Viridian Tea Company. Find them on Etsy. And now, your top nerd news stories. All right, so topping us off tonight, there was a trailer that dropped from Netflix, a new series that's got Steve Carell in it. Space Force. Oh my God, I'm so excited for this because just every time
I can't make this up.
I just always think of this song, man. Space Force auto-tune is a gift. Oh, it's a gift. It's a manna from heaven. So Space Force is going to be Steve Carell. I guess it's going to be like The Office meets NASA. I'm not exactly sure.
It seems like that. I mean, it seems like that almost Parks and Rec a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it was created by the guy who did Parks and Rec.
Yeah, it's looking more like it's going to be a very, I don't know, like tongue-in-cheek. But here's the trailer they dropped on Friday.
I want to welcome our newest four-star general, Mark Naird, formerly number 2 at the Air Force.
Thank you. It has always been my dream to command a service branch.
Our nation's internet runs through our vulnerable space satellites. POTUS wants complete space dominance. To that end, the president is creating a new branch, Space Force, which Mark will run.
What?
This is a great adventure we are embarking on today. There will be setbacks, but greatness was never won without sacrifice.
Space should be a zone of wonder, not of conflict and death.
As a scientist, you have a loyalty to reason. Makes you a little untrustworthy.
How much was that prototype?
$4 million?
Middle schools. Cost as much as 4 new middle schools.
Are you running? No, keep up.
Your attitude seems to be, give us money and don't look while we militarize space.
You are running. Keep up.
His blood pressure is spiking.
Brad, no interruptions for 5 minutes.
This is the best part. Here it is.
Tropical drinks melting in your hand. We'll be falling in love to the rhythm of a steel drum band. Down
Jamaica. My God. What's spectacular about it? They got a little bit more left in it, but
I mean,
it's an idiot. It's an idiot who's running it, which I guess.
Our country
Here we go.
put a man on the moon. Well, guess what, kids? We're going back.
They're going back. Well, and that's what's so funny. Nobody really knows what Space Force is for real, like in real life. And so I'm sure they're going to pick some schmuck who really is going to be in awe and love of the new Space Force. And it's just, comedy sometimes just is, when you hold up that mirror to reflect actual society, the comedy usually just kind of writes itself. And it looks like the guys Steve Carell probably couldn't be a better casting choice for this role, because it's just, I can't imagine what they're going to delve into, except for, I guess, our tips were right there, where it's like, oh, we're going to look the other way while you militarize space. All these things are a perfect reflection of where we are right now, especially, when people are having money problems and we're going to be spending more money to send more monkeys into space for just, grins, I guess.
Satire is normally the most successful form of comedy.
There you go. So I'm looking forward to the Space Force trailer. All right, moving on. Netflix keeps the hits coming. David Harbour, the sheriff from Stranger Things. He was, I don't know where they snagged him. Apparently it was at a convention, and people are probably hoarding information right now because there ain't a whole lot going on as far as news of what's going on. Nothing's really in production. But what really jumped out at me about this with David Harbour was that he said there's a big, huge reveal about Hopper's backstory. And one thing that I've noticed about Stranger Things is they really know how to weave a plot. They leave little things here and there. It's like a trail of breadcrumbs, but you don't know where it's leading you to. And this is something that they've had for a while now. When Hopper was cleaning out his weird little, hermit shack out in the woods, and 11 found some boxes that were labeled Dad, Vietnam, New York, and it was just kind of like, pushed them to the side as if it was nothing. Yeah. But apparently in this new season that they're working on, it's going to be some big reveals about his character, and this is why I'm intrigued by it, because Hopper seems like a normal guy who has to deal with abnormal circumstances. He's already a drunk and a highly stressed dude, but there's no reason as to where he got from where he was to where he is now. Like, just basically he had some I guess lady,
his daughter.
Yeah, right.
He lost his daughter. They put that in the show. They say that he lost her, but other than that, yeah, you're right. There really is nothing that's like, how did this guy get to be who he is?
Beer shower beers. That's what I'm saying. Dude, anybody who wakes up in the morning and drinks a beer in the shower, they got some issues. So, but that's what endeared me to him right away. He's just smoking and he's drinking a beer in the shower, and then he puts on the sheriff's badge. I was like, perfect. This is just perfect. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that once that comes out. These things that we've got coming out, I think we talked a lot about it last week as opposed to video on demand and what the theaters are going to look like. Technically in 5 more days, New Orleans will begin to open up. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm not even sure the mayor knows what that's going to look like. But I know I ain't going to no damn theater until things really cool down out there. But I say all that to say this is because now you've got more stuff that's really on the streaming platforms with Netflix and then jumping over to Disney Plus. Because look, Skungy, I'm cheap as hell, man. I am just so cheap.
We know this.
Yeah, but Disney Plus, I'm happily giving
every penny.
Yeah, I mean they're already releasing things early with the Rise of Skywalker. I don't care what people say. I like the movie. They can all kiss my tuchus.
So did I.
Look, is there some bad storytelling? Yeah, probably, but I don't care. It had lightsabers, it had stormtroopers. What more do you possibly need? All it was missing was a She-Hulk, Skungy. All it was missing was a She-Hulk. So,
what a segue.
You're welcome. She-Hulk, apparently those scripts are in. And here's the thing, though. All right, I really don't care about She-Hulk. It wasn't a character I was ever really interested in, but it's just another one of the offerings coming from Disney Plus, because there's been a huge hole in my heart ever since Netflix canceled, the Defenders and Daredevil. When they canceled those shows, it left a hole. And now looking at Disney Plus roster with She-Hulk on deck, you got the Falcon and Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, WandaVision, Hawkeye, Moon Knight, and they're working on Miss Marvel. And apparently a Winter Soldier series is supposed to be getting a 6-episode run in late August of this year.
This year.
So I think I'm really beginning to wonder what movies are going to be for and what theaters are going to be. I mean, I'm wondering how much of a chunk this is going to take out of the movie-going experience because, honestly, look, I know I'm weird. I like to stay home. I'm not a big fan of people. So if I could stay home and watch these things and they're giving me all of this for $6.99 a month, hell, man, you can take that Stubbs cards and stick it somewhere because, I ain't going to that.
Well, yeah, but remember, with the big movies, I mean, if you want to wait to see them, that's going to be the thing because they're going to be releasing them in the theaters. We don't know by the time they start doing the big movies whether or not they're going to be released at the same time. But with all these TV shows coming, remember what they said. They're going to tie in directly with the MCU movies to the point that some of these shows you're not going to be able to watch the actual movie and understand what's going on unless you watch these shows as well.
Look, as much as I think that would be a poor decision on that part, because what's the point of a movie if it's not a standalone movie where the sequel, where, you leave the theater maybe wanting more from, a sequel, or maybe you to go watch the TV show afterwards. But if I got to watch a TV show to go watch a movie, man,
from what they said, it's something about like Doctor Strange has a lot to do with one of the shows are going to tie in directly with that film, the new Doctor Strange movie.
Yeah, look, if they do that, I think that's going to be probably the first major blunder of Marvel and Disney, because if people have to shell out money and watch, what's the point of going to a movie if it's really not encapsulated one-stop serving, I mean, that's what a movie's supposed to be. You walk in, there's a clear opening, a clear ending, and typically most things get resolved. It would be a poor maneuver on their part because they keep doing everything right. Because once again, Disney Plus and then The Mandalorian comes shining through. So Tamura Morrison, the guy who appeared as Jango Fett.
At least you try to pronounce it. I wasn't.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, I probably butchered it, but whatever. It's not like he's going to come over here and punch me in the face. Dude's old anyway. So he is Jango Fett and then little baby Boba Fett. But now, apparently, he's going to be showing up in The Mandalorian. Now, this is what's crazy. I've already found news that Boba Fett's supposed to be appearing in The Mandalorian. The question is it flashbacks or is it now? Because it's 5 years after Return of the Jedi. I would guess maybe he's still in the Sarlacc pit, still.
Well, they've already, apparently, according to the canon, that he did escape the Sarlacc pit. That's according to written canon, but we don't know when.
Yeah, but what, the new canon? Because it's in Legends, because they wrote a book on
Legends.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but is it in new canon? That's the question.
They said, yeah, new canon, that he's in, that he survived. They didn't say how. They just said that he survived. They don't give you any other detail other than that.
Sure. Okay. Whatever.
I mean, but that also brings in the other controversy with Boba Fett about how he's not a real Mandalorian.
Well, there is that. There's a lot of talk about that. I mean, here's the thing, that the whole enjoyment factor of The Mandalorian is that you get more on not the race, because it's not a race. It's a culture. It's a tribal grouping. And apparently they'll bring anybody in with foundlings and such like that. I mean, look, here's the thing. If you get the armor, there wasn't a whole lot of people running around with the armor, apparently, and if they do, they stayed undercover. I don't know. I mean, I have faith. Look, I've got faith in the showrunners of The Mandalorian because of what they've done thus far. I think they could probably fill in some plot holes and or just give us a bigger depth and appreciation of. I mean, that was one of the cool things about, Boba Fett was that the mystery. You didn't know anything about him. He just looked badass, and that's all you needed to know. He looked badass, and he...
The Clone Wars television show, the cartoon, actually went in depth a bit on the Mandalorian culture, on Mandalore, and in fact, in the last episodes of Clone Wars Season 7, which just aired on May the 4th.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen it.
I'm not going to, no spoilers, but it ended with the whole siege of Mandalore. And that also goes into Mandalorian Season 2 because Rosario Dawson is going to play Ahsoka Tano in that show. So if you want to read up on it or watch the Clone Wars, there's a lot of Mandalorian lore in that show.
Yeah, because I got all this spare time. Well, actually, I guess most of us do have a lot of spare time right now. So yeah, I guess I will have to get around to it. Well, you know what? It brings us to our final story for Top Nerd News. It involves stormtroopers. Canadian stormtroopers, that is. So if you hadn't seen the news, on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, there was a little restaurant pub, kind of a nerdy pub, and they were enjoying Star Wars Day, and obviously they're under quarantine as well. So they had a stormtrooper out there trying to drum up some business. Well, apparently in Canada, they don't know what guns look like because they called the police on this person who was out there in stormtrooper armor and said there was somebody walking around the neighborhood with a gun. And so, needless to say, the Canadian Mounties, or whatever the hell podunk town they were from, roll up on the stormtrooper. Turns out that it was a girl underneath the armor. So, good
like 17-year-old girl, something like that.
See, look, somebody's parenting correctly up there. So she tried to obey the police officers, but if anybody out there knows how much a suit of stormtrooper armor costs, knows that it's not really ideal for any strenuous activity. Like
you can't
zero,
sit, you can't move,
right?
Other than walking.
I honestly, I don't know what the Empire was thinking when they issued this to every trooper out there. But hey, you know what? I don't think the Empire was worried about stormtrooper comfort. So this poor girl couldn't, get down on her knees, and then, was knocked to the ground apparently, and had got a bloody nose. And so it was all bad. Apparently, they sorted it all out. She wasn't arrested, and then the police went their way. But people were upset because how do you not know what a toy gun is? And
how do you not know what a stormtrooper is?
I don't know. Maybe Canada. That's all I could say. It's just Canada. But here's the thing. Like, of all the people to come to this girl's defense, it would be Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk.
Of all, you're right. Of all the people,
William Shatner comes to her defense. Yep. Look, William Shatner comes to her defense, and I don't know if anybody thought there was going to be a cover-up, but apparently he was very, very put out. Where did I put his tweet? Hey, here it is. Captain's log, stardate 49. I don't know what stardate he's using. Sending my contempt this morning to the Leth Police of Alberta, Canada. Rifles drawn for a plastic toy cosplayer. Didn't comply right away? ? Are you blind, Chief? ? Watch the video to see how quickly she complied. This cannot be covered up. Well, it went viral, so I don't think it's going to get covered up. They are doing an investigation. But
the whole thing is just stupid. Well, I don't understand how. You had people sitting there going like, "It's a plastic gun." One guy said one of the best lines I've ever heard. "Hey man, this is Canada. We don't have guns."
Well, that's exactly it. They mustn't have known what a gun looks like. Well, look, Skungy, what I did was, once I found this, I started scouring Canadian TV, and I came across their version of Cops.
I used to have nothing.
Boo, that wasn't it. I screwed it up, Skungy. Well. All right, let's go to break. All right, when we come back, we'll do Skungy's Pick of the Week. This is The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
I watch with amazement
you see all of these businesses, healthcare workers and doctors and first responders and nurses and every other American on the front line
come together
to help their fellow men and women in need.
for the common good.
It's inspiring.
Sean Hannity.
It is America at its best. It is American exceptionalism. We always talk about American exceptionalism here.
Monday at 2, News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
iHeartMedia knows small businesses across the country are facing new challenges during the COVID-19 pandemic. So to help, we've put together the iHeartRadio Small Business Crisis Resource, which has critical information, including links to federal and state resources providing businesses with stimulus loans, grants, and other financial aid. We also shine a spotlight on small businesses doing good right now. Visit smallbusinesscrisisresource.com to learn more. That's smallbusinesscrisisresource.com, because your small business is big to us.
News. I'm Kathleen Maloney. The vice president's office denies a report that Mike Pence is self-isolating after an aide was diagnosed with the coronavirus. In a statement, his spokesperson says the VP is following the advice of the White House medical unit and is not in quarantine. He has repeatedly tested negative for COVID-19 and plans to be at the White House tomorrow. The UK is slowly lifting its coronavirus lockdown.
We now need to stress that anyone who can't work from home, for instance, those in construction or manufacturing, should be actively encouraged to go to work, and we want it to be safe for you to get to work. So you should avoid public transport if at all possible.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson, in a televised address, also saying cases of the virus and deaths are declining in Britain. America is listening to Fox News.
Live from the Gregory Ricks and Associates Wealth Management Studios, this is News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Hey, this is Booker T, WWE Hall of Famer, and you're listening to The Week in Geek on WRNO. Now, can you dig that, sucker?
Welcome back into The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. And as always, we want to strongly urge you to check out the Facebook page, facebook.com/The Week in Geek. Check out our website at twigradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Twig Radio and the Instagram's The Week in Geek. Now, Skungy, how can people listen to this lovely show?
Well, if you missed any part of tonight's show, or if you want to catch your favorite part again, you can always find us on Spreaker.com or download the Spreaker app to your smartphone or tablet. We're also on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, and your mama's house.
Bro, you're stealing my lines.
Skungy's Pick of the Week.
I am not what you would call a handsome man.
I love lamp. I love lamp.
Skungy's Pick of the Week.
He might be an idiot savant.
Might be an idiot savant. We know he's an idiot savant. All right, Skungy, what's your pick this week, bro?
Well, my pick this week is Doom Eternal.
Ooh, is that the one that moves really fast and gave me motion sickness last time?
Yeah. I'll get into that.
They made another one?
I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
So, this is the sequel to the 2016 Doom, which 2016 was Doom was basically a reboot of the classic franchise, which Doom is, if you don't know, is one of the pioneers of the first-person shooting genre. There was Wolfenstein and there was Doom. It was both made by the same company, id Software. And it was
8-bit glory. Say what it is. 8-bit glory.
8-bit gory glory. It was so fun. And because you had these big guns, one of them called the BFG, use that for your own
The big friendly giant. The big friendly giant, like the movie. because that's what I always see when I see that movie title pop up, Big Friendly Giant. Yep.
You also had a chainsaw, and you went through, and you basically you're in hell, and you're fighting hell demons.
Yes.
So
Good times.
It was a very, very fun game. Well, they rebooted it basically in 2016, brought it up to date, and it was very well received. This one, 2020, is just as well received as that one.
Wow. How did they do that?
It's high speed, to the point that I'm going to put a warning out there that some people are not going to be able to play this game.
Okay, why?
This game is fast. It's extremely fast. It's so fast that people get motion sickness from it.
Yeah.
So some people are susceptible to motion sickness when they're playing first-person shooters. I am actually one of those people. So if a game moves too fast, it's really hard for me to play it because it's so fast. And I love the game. I'll say this, but for me, I can't play it too long. I can't do a long gaming session of this game. And that might be a problem with some players. So that's a caveat that you want to know about before you think about purchasing this game.
Is it because it's like enclosed spaces, or like here's my issue. Like I would start sometimes feeling queasy when I would play Fallout because you'd go down in the vaults. I would only get sick in the vaults. Like you're going through trying to search all the portions of the vault, and you'd get turned around, and I don't know, for some reason those enclosed walls playing that game would make me sick. I mean, it's weird, but you know that's what happens when you get old. Is it because it's like enclosed spaces with Doom, or?
I wouldn't say that. No, it's just because it is so fast. It is faster than normal first-person shooters. Now, when you play Call of Duty, you've got a pace to it. And even when you're running, you've got a pace to it. This is so much faster. It actually feels more like a PC shooter. Now, people who play console shooters and PC shooters are much faster than a console shooter.
Right.
For me, it's hard for me. So, like I said, that's something that you want to think about. This is a game that is very much spray and pray. You just shoot everything that moves. Now, it's got a campaign. The campaign's about 15 hours long.
Wow, that's not bad.
But this one does have more strategy with it than previous Dooms because you're going to learn weak spots of enemies. Before, you used to just sit there and go, like, all right, I'm just going to focus on this one baddie and then take out the little ones, or I'll take out all the little ones first and then focus on the big one.
Right.
This one now has weak spots, and they show you about the different weak spots with these enemies. So you can sit there and try to take them out quicker than it would be before if you hit that weak spot. Now, once again, a little bit harder than it was before because of the faster pace. You also you have this really cool option of you're going to have health pickups and ammo pickups, but you can do what's called a gory kill. If you're down on health, you shoot an enemy, and once it starts blinking, you can melee it and gory kill it, and you get health from it.
Ooh.
So you can replenish your health.
So you kill with style, you get rewarded for it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or if you're running low on ammo, which happens a lot, you've got your trusty chainsaw, which is one of the most iconic weapons in this series. You use your chainsaw, cut the guy in half, and ammo jumps up. It just drops all over the place.
So do demons just like eat ammunition and just their stomachs are just filled with bullets or something?
Basically, that's what happens. But you get some really cool weapon combos, too. You have like a super shotgun that's got a grapple option on it that legitimately shoots a grapple hook to the guy and pulls him to you.
Oh,
and shoot him with a shotgun.
Get over here.
Kind of like Scorpion, yeah.
Okay.
But you also have collectibles that you're going to find throughout the game as well. And that gives you a little bit of a puzzle element because you have to go try to figure out how to get this collectible. And it could be a collectible or a weapon upgrade. And it's, I have to figure out I have to jump here, then jump here, then jump here to get to it.
Do you have to go up and down the walls, constantly hitting the space bar, hoping that you find a secret door? Is that how that works?
No,
Okay.
not like that.
Just checking.
Not like that. So that it breaks it up a little bit because when you're in action, man, it's fast paced. But then you get to cool down a little bit with these little puzzles, and I really like that. It's got a good story to it. One problem with that is most of the story is in the menus. Now, what that means is that they've got some cutscenes, but if you want to learn most about it, you find journal entry logs and whatnot, and it's a lot of reading, which, I mean, I don't mind, but sometimes I can slow down the pace of the game.
I mean, let's be honest. I mean, we didn't need a whole lot of explanation for the original Doom or even Wolfenstein because, it's just like Nazis in armor, shoot them, and then demons, shoot them, yay! I mean, is it as bad as that movie Doom with was it The Rock who was in that?
No. Oh yeah, it was Carl Urban and The Rock. It was that was a terrible movie. But this is actually a very, very good addition to the last one. Like I said, the last one is one of the best first-person shooters made in the last 6 years. But this also has one cool thing to it as well. It's got the multiplayer mode to it.
Oh yeah,
which is 2 versus 1, demons versus Slayer. Ooh. One person plays the Doom guy, and 2 people play demons. So you can, if you're a demon, you could spawn smaller demons and everything to fight against the enemies. The Slayer is fully decked out, got like all his armor, all the best weapons and whatnot. And you have to work in tandem. If you're the demon, you have to work in tandem with the person that you're working with, because if both of you get killed, the Slayer wins before the other one can respawn. So if you can hold off the Slayer before and your other guy can respawn, you still got a chance to win. So it's got a great it's not just one of those team death matches or, free for all. No, you've got a really cool strategy. Small, enclosed, very, very personal. I really like this online mode. It's unique, and you can also do like map editing and whatnot. So I love it a lot.
All right, price and platform, bud.
It's $60. It's on the PC, the Xbox One, and the PlayStation 4. There's also a deluxe edition that gets you. There's a season pass available, whatnot, with extra weapons and whatnot. So that costs about $80.
All right. So look, real quick, give the listeners an update on what the hell's going on over there at GameStop. Are you guys open yet? Is it still just drive by and you throw games in their window?
We opened up all of our locations in Louisiana. Opened up on Friday. So if you're in Louisiana, they opened up on Friday. If you're in Mississippi, all of those stores actually opened up last week. But we are allowing 5 people in the store. Come on in. We unfortunately aren't doing trades or cash, but if you got a credit card or a debit card or a gift card, come on in and we'll take care of you. We don't have a lot in stock, but we will order it for you. There's a lot of games that we can order and get it shipped to your house.
Well, there you go. All right, Skungy, hold tight. We got to go to a break. When we come back, Dean Rueter will join us, author of The Hidden Nazi, The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil. Stick around. This is The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
ProSe Productions is a leading independent publisher on the cutting edge of new pulp and genre fiction today. At ProSe Productions, you'll find fiction featuring fast-paced action and adventure, larger-than-life protagonists, over-the-top characters, and tight yet extravagant plots. ProSe specializes in prose books, anthologies, audiobooks, and more. Go to prose-press.com to find our monthly release schedule and more info about our great titles. ProSe Productions is your first-rate publisher of new pulp fiction today.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as Tea of the Necropolis, Quantum Mechanics, Spider Witch, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
Hello, creeps. It's me, John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and you're listening to The Week in Geek.
Welcome back into The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I'm your host, D Squared. Let's go to the guest line. I have a very exciting guest line up for tonight. If you are not a history buff or a World War II nerd like myself, I feel sorry for you. But Friday, May 8th was VE Day. And to help me talk about that and his new book, Dean Rueter joins us, author of The Hidden Nazi, The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil. Dean, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm great. Thanks for hosting me this evening, D-Squared.
Absolutely, man. My pleasure. Look, and I love your name because my second son is named Dean. Of course, I named him after Dean Winchester from the Supernatural TV show, but
nice.
I don't know, are you Dean Martin? Where were you named after?
I'm 59 years old, so I've always assumed that, but I never really asked my folks that. So that's a mystery in and of itself.
There you go. Now, Dean, look, let's talk about this book, The Hidden Nazi, The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil. This is out right now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, wherever fine books are sold. This is interesting. It's about Hans Kammler, who I guess they thought he was dead, and he was involved with building the concentration camps, with helping Werner von Braun with the rocket program, giving these people over to the United States. Tell me about this book and the impetus that was to write this book, The Hidden Nazi.
Sure. Again, thanks for having me on. I got involved in this book because by trade, I'm a lawyer, and I have a friend of mine who was a researcher. I've known him since college. He came to me about 12 years ago, asked me to write an agreement between him and this other researcher because they had both come across this despicable German Nazi general. They were both researching him. They wanted to share information, and they wanted to formalize an agreement between the two of them. So I drafted that. That was Keith Chester. He's on the cover of the book. With Dr. Colm Lowry, he's on the cover of the book. And they started sharing information with each other, but then they also started sharing information with me. And as you described, this is the story about an all-powerful, all-evil Nazi SS general first involved in the Holocaust, meaning he made the Holocaust possible, D-Squared. He identified Auschwitz as the killing camp and the site for the slave labor camp. Then he installed the gas chambers and the ovens. Then he went on to perfect Germany's slave labor trade, made a name for himself, becoming very efficient, and by the end of the war, he's in charge of all of Germany's secret weapons, including not just the vengeance weapons, the rockets, but all the radar and tanks and high explosives and sophisticated switches and the rockets. And the German rockets were vastly superior to anything the United States had. We wanted them, and at the end of the war, there was going to be this mad scramble for German technology, a big competition between us and the Soviets to try and get this rocket team. Now, most people think we just stumbled upon the rocket team, got lucky, and got them. But as we prove in The Hidden Nazi with government documents we've just unearthed, it was a complicated deal made by Hans Kammler, who then, with the help of the Americans, went on to fake his own suicide and escape justice.
This is so much to unpack. We're visiting with Dean Rueter. And again, Dean, I didn't tell the listeners who you are as well. You're the General Counsel of the Federalist Society for Law and Public Policy and a fellow at the National Security Institute at George Mason University's Antonin Scalia Law School. So there's a lot to unpack in this because when I knew I was going to have you on the show, I went back and I watched this old HBO show, HBO movie Conspiracy, which was, and I couldn't remember the name of the show when I was researching. All I could remember was The Final Solution. And then I found out it was called Conspiracy. And so I rewatched that and an older one called the Von Z Conference, which is basically the same thing. And the casual way they discussed the use of gas trucks and the use of Zyklon B and all these things, it's still disgusting to this day where you're just watching it and you're just like, holy crap, the flippant way they were just casually talking about murdering millions of people.
It really is atrocious, and especially as we look back a couple days ago to the 75th anniversary of Victory in Europe Day, it's important to remember these things. And that conference you're talking about was in January of 1942, Lake Wannsee, the Wannsee Conference. Yeah. And most people think that's when Germany decided to begin the Holocaust. But we dug up documents that show September 27th, 1941. That's the day that Hans Kammler identified Auschwitz as the killing camp. So he was ahead of the official formalization of the Holocaust, the final solution. And from that point forward, he was involved in building out Auschwitz. He stood up the architectural office there. He was there on a weekly, sometimes daily basis, barking orders, firing his pistol in the air. His underlings were afraid he would kill them. He'd kill anybody that got in his way. He was an extraordinary human being, and I mean that in the worst way possible.
Right. Agreed. So one of the things I was reading about it was that Heinrich Himmler, if he was the architect of the Holocaust, then that would mean Kammler was really the engineer, because he was the one with all the designs of that. And I guess really what shocks me, though, is that I guess when it found out like he was working with the rocket with Werner von Braun, that in essence he was managing the slave labor camps to help build the V-2 rockets. And I was reading up on von Braun where he denied any knowledge of the slave labor, or that if he went there, he was like, oh, well, we were just looking at the rockets. But I'm guessing that Kammler was the one who was really putting all this together and pulling the strings.
That's exactly right. Kammler was in charge. He was the administrator in charge. He supplied the slaves. He made sure everything ran on time. But we have a whole chapter in this book about Werner von Braun, who became an American hero. And he was dirty. I mean, Kammler was in it up to his eyeballs, but von Braun was in it up to at least his neck. And he knew about the use of slaves. He recruited slaves from time to time. And he made these weapons of war. And he knew those weapons were being used against citizens.
You know, we're visiting with Dean Rueter, the author of The Hidden Nazi, the Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil, available now at Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold. You know, it's I guess when you think, a lot of people think back to, it was a simpler time back then, but it really wasn't. There was a lot of gray areas where the world was at war. And we knew towards the end of the war, as we were, Russia and America were heading towards Berlin, that things were about to go sideways with our Russian air quote allies, and that there was going to be a race, because I know that the Russians went in there and just pretty much tried to grab everybody we could. But the interesting part, and this is what I wanted to get into with you as well, was that Hans Kammler was supposedly dead. But when did he start setting up, trying to get the Americans, the von Brauns and all the scientists in the rocket program?
So that's a great question, because the rocket scientists were operating as a unit on the northern shore of Germany, the Baltic coast.
Peenemünde?
Yeah, exactly. Peenemünde. You know a lot lot about this.
Dude, I'm a nerd, man. I got a charter membership at the D-Day Museum / World War II History Museum. So this is my bread and butter, Dean.
Well, 2 months from, I think yesterday, I'm doing an event there at the World War II Museum, a book talk scheduled for July 9th. So check it out if you're in the area.
That'd be awesome.
So there's this tightly sequenced series of events that show that Kammler was doing a deal with the Americans. The rocket, the V-2 rocket, debuts in the fall of 1944. In November of 1944, the Americans let a contract, Project Hermes, with General Electric, the American contractor, to build our version of the V-2. We've seen it on the battlefield now. We have this conception of it. We decide we're going to try and build one. By December, just a month later, Kammler's emissaries are meeting with representatives of the Americans and General Electric in neutral territory in Portugal. A month after that, Peenemünde is about to fall to the Russians, and Hans Kammler signs an order January 31st, 1945, moving them down to central Germany. A month after that, Yalta Conference happens. That's where the Allies define the post-war zones of occupation. And it turns out that central Germany is going to be in the Russian zone of occupation. So the place Kammler just moved the rocket team to preserve them, to keep them from the Russians, is going to be in the Russian territory. So he moves them a second time and puts them within a week's march of the advancing U.S. Army in Bavaria. And he had many, many other places he could have taken them at that time, but he basically dropped them off on the front porch of the Americans. And that's the sequence of events that we call the Kammler deal. Now, we think he did that in order to erase his Holocaust past and save his own life.
Right.
But that logic chain, you can see, falls apart when you think, well, the guy then walked off into the woods and shot and killed himself. Why would he do that if he'd made a deal? And that's one of the big reveals of the book. He didn't actually commit suicide at the end of the war. Our government documents, our own government, prove he didn't commit suicide at the end of the war.
Oh my God, that's astounding. Dean Rueter is with us. All right, so and obviously we don't want to give away any of the great nuggets and gold that's in this book, but I guess really at that point, I mean, Is he still perhaps alive out there? Like some of those shows where they're like searching for Hitler. I can't remember. There's a couple of them. I remember one. They went down to like Chile, I think, and they found some sort of like I don't know, a gravity pump that was bringing water to this house, and then they claimed Hitler was living there. I mean, all kinds of wackiness like that. But did Kammler supposedly like just get a new place in another country? Did he come here to the USA? I don't want answers, but give me some hints.
Well, those are the questions you have to ask, and you're right to be asking them. Let me ask the first question, or answer the first question you asked. Is he still alive today? No, because he was born in 1901, so he'd be almost 120 years old now.
I don't know. My grandpa was kicking all the way to 98, man. That the greatest generation had some hell of a good set of genes in them.
That's very true, but even so, I don't think Hans Kammler's still alive. But I tell you what, I interviewed his son in Germany.
Wow.
And his son never believed the story of his father's own suicide. His son thought he survived. And as I mentioned, we've got government documents to prove that. And we, honestly, we don't know where he is today, but we lay out 3 scenarios in the book, The Hidden Nazi, and identify one of them as the most likely, knowing that we had him for almost a year, for a full year after the end of the war. We had him in custody.
Wow. So was there any sort of correspondence perhaps between some of the guys that got picked up in Operation Paperclip that brought all the rocket scientists here, which like later, joined NASA and helped launch our first satellite into space? Was there any communication there, or was once he delivered his side of the bargain that, perhaps he just rode off to the sunset with a bag full of loot or something?
Yeah, I think it's more the latter. We didn't find him communicating with any of the people that came to the United States.
Okay.
Most of those people you mentioned that came under Operation Paperclip, they came under their own names. Most of them, frankly, were just sort of benign actors. They were just scientists and technicians and soldiers, but many of them were Nazis, and many of them had their records sanitized by us as they entered this country. We talk about that in the book. Kammler, we think, went a different route entirely. But it's fascinating stuff, D-Squared.
Well, it's interesting, too, because, I mean, like I said, when I knew I was going to have you on, I started digging back into stuff, too. And just like Wernher von Braun, where he even contradicted himself later on, where he said, oh, no, I had to sign up to the National Socialist Party just to avoid any problems. But apparently he was even given a year before that, he signed up himself, and it was like number 5,366 something or other. And, it's interesting, though, too, because, I think the US of A at that time, we knew we were going to be getting from a hot war to a potentially another hot war or a cold war with Russia, and we still had to deal with Japan. And I know at that time, was it Operation Olympic that was supposed to be the mainland attack on Japan? I think so, because my grandpa was supposed to go in that. And if that had happened, Dean, I probably wouldn't be here, because, I mean, they were looking at a loss of life of like in the 50 to 60%, and it would have dwarfed Operation Overlord and D-Day by
that would have been truly cataclysmic. But I gotta you mentioned von Braun. I gotta tell you, we blow him out of the water in this book. There's a special chapter for him because he worked for Hans Kammler, and we discovered a 1948, 3 years after the war, a 1948 CIA interrogation of Wernher von Braun, where it really is revealed that how despicable he was, and how much of a Nazi he was, and how he relied knowingly on slaves to build his weapons of war. He tried to pass himself off as a technician, as a scientist, always yearning for the stars, that sort of thing. He was a warrior. He knew it. He abused slaves, and he even was working for the duration of the war on a rocket that was designed to reach the eastern seaboard of the United States. So it could reach, Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., not quite New Orleans. But,
right.
And he contemplated coupling that with a dirty bomb.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. It's all in a book.
Wow. Dean Rueter is our guest, author of The Hidden Nazi, The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil, also General Counsel of the Federalist Society for Law and Public Policy, and a fellow at the National Security Institute at George Mason University's Antonin Scalia Law School. I can't believe I did all that in one breath. Dean, look, this has been a a treat, man. I'm excited to get this book, man. I can't wait. Amazon.com, Barnes & Nobles, wherever books are sold. Once again, Dean, tell people where they can get more information and, maybe pick up a copy of this book as well.
You can reach me at deanrueter@gmail.com or on Facebook at Dean Rueter Books. But for Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble, I would stress that this book is available in every format known to man. You can get it on CDs, you can get the Audible version, you can get a Kindle version, you can get it hardback. You don't have to leave your house to get it. So
that's very important in these days and times, Dean. I hope you and your family are safe right now.
Yes, sir. Thank you, D Squared.
That's good, man. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute treat, and wish you all the best. And maybe we'll see you in July 9th at the World War II Museum. That would be spectacular, man. Hopefully we'll be out of this quarantine and be able to, gather in groups of more than 10 people again. That would be swell.
I hope to see lots of you there, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, well, that was fun. It's called The Week in Geek for a reason. I'm a geek, whatever. Judge me later. This is The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO. We'll wrap up tonight's show after these commercial messages. Stick around. This is News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as Tea of the Necropolis, Quantum Mechanics, Spider Witch, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Wonderful friends, it is I, Starfire of Tamaran, here to tell you you are listening to the Week in Geek on the radio. This is the radio, yes?
Yes, it is, Starfire. This is the Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I want to thank Dean Rueter for joining us. That was fun. Skungy, look, as we wrap up, I know apparently there's a lot of gray area that we dealt with in the World War II era, but hey, you know what?
Yeah, that was an awesome interview, dude. That was just so cool.
We got to the moon, so bleep it. All right, look, speaking of the moon, I have no good segue for this. All right, so Knights of the Old Republic. So apparently a 3 is reportedly in development at BioWare?
Oh, I cannot. I am so happy about this. I mean, like I said, that is still in my top 10 games of all time, the Knights of the Old Republic series. So, yeah, it looks like it's due. It looks like it's going to be coming out soon. They're working on it, and it's BioWare is in charge of it again.
Man.
So that is looking to be something really, really, really cool. Now, they're saying that Respawn Studios is hard at work. They have a whole bunch of licensing issues with it. But, man, this is looking like it could actually happen, and I can't wait for that because, like I said, it is still, in my opinion, the best Star Wars game ever made. The release is tentative to be 2022.
Okay. All right. Now, look, the other one, Star Wars Fallen Order by EA. Apparently, this is going to be the start of a new franchise. And look, EA gave us some offerings that were below subpar with Battlefront. Then Battlefront 2.
Stellar.
Yeah, and then Battlefront 2 it enjoyed and introduced loot boxes to the world and universally panned. But Fallen Order is a pretty badass game. If they're going to make more entries like that, I'd be totally fine with it. But at EA, their license is starting to fall apart, or it's about to wrap up at the end of this year, I think. So,
yeah, it is. It is. It's going to be. I mean, it's going to be interesting how they're going to make this a franchise. I'll tell you this. I didn't see that coming because this timeline is so rigidly set that it's
Right.
hard. It's like, where are they going to go with it? It's really so it's going to be interesting on how they make it. But I'm excited about it because the game was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Want to thank our guest tonight, Dean Rueter, author of The Hidden Nazi, The Untold Story of America's Deal with the Devil. Check it out on Amazon. Skungy, thank you as always. I'm not going to fire you this week, but sleep with one eye open because there's always next week. Till next time, keep your nerd flag raised high.
Catch News Talk 99.5 WRNO FM New Orleans anywhere on our free iHeartRadio app.